What's up, everybody? Special edition with a very special guest, Harland Williams, joining We Are Live. It's Chris Denman, Travis Farrell. Good to see you, sir.
Yeah,
welcome to St. Louis, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very excited to have you. It's been, we were discussing this pre-show, Travis, 12 years since Mr. Williams has appeared in St. Louis. He'll be at Helium Comedy Club all weekend long. You guys need to go check him out. Harland's extremely funny, very talented. 12 years since he's been here. Can you explain the reasoning for that? Is there a dislike for the arch, toasted ravioli, not a big fan of Cardinals baseball? I don't know. What's going on with you, Harland?
You know, it just was logistics. It just it was just
no banning of any sort.
No
behavior.
No.
Okay.
Unless David Keckner didn't want me here. You know.
He's a Missouri guy.
Yeah, he probably.
I thought you guys would maybe be cool.
We're buddies, but I think he's territorial. Yeah, like if you ever are out on the highway and you see him urinating around in like a large swath, that's him marking his territory. He's like a lion. And, he told me he doesn't want me in his urine circle.
I hate when he does
about
that.
700 square miles. He drinks a lot of Newman's Own lemonade. Yeah.
As you do in Southwest Missouri, where he grew up.
Yeah.
What an interesting take on things. I'm very upset to hear that. I kind of actually am a little nervous about welcoming you into our studio.
Yeah.
Are you sure this ban has lifted?
Yeah, I talked to him.
Okay,
and,
you worked it out?
Yeah, we worked it out. So.
Okay. You mentioned David Keckner, and we didn't talk about this, but our lovely producer, Chris Gardner, Travis, I don't know if you heard about this, our friend Beth worked with Dave Keckner. There's a little bit of history. You had done like an Instagram, it was an Instagram series. This is before all this was happening, by the way. This is somewhat ahead of its time, right? With David Keckner and yourself?
Yeah.
Was it Steady and Shakes?
Steady and Shakes, yeah.
It's like, why am I talking about my video? You know,
No, it was
successful
this idea that David had for a movie. He'd been talking to me for years. Right. He goes, I want to do a movie or a series, a cop thing. And I go, what is it? He goes, it's called Steady and Shakes. And I'm like, how does it work? He goes, well, I'm going to be the guy who's steady, and you've got the shakes. And I'm like, that's it? I said, it'll never work. Are you an idiot? Like, it was just like the dumbest idea. And I just kept saying, no. And then he goes, well, we can shoot it on Instagram. And when Instagram started, I think you only had 5 seconds or something.
Something short.
10 seconds.
Short, yeah.
So I said, okay, I could do that. I could shoot 10 seconds.
You became a little more open to the idea.
Yeah, so we did. I think we did 8 episodes of Steady and Shake. So what's that? 80 seconds?
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
So,
I'd say any form of compensation for that's quite fair.
Yeah. So
if you're looking at the logistics of everything.
Yeah.
Gardner, do we have a clip of this?
Oh God.
Let's see Steady and Shakes.
Steady and Shakes.
Oh my! Look at these guys, ready to rock.
Oh my God.
Steady and Shakes.
We shot all of it in his front lawn too. That's the most humiliating part. I'm not even joking.
Oh, is that CBS over in Studio City, or where'd you knock that out?
Front lawn. I'm not kidding. And he had to leave on a family road trip that night. So he had a giant Winnebago in the driveway. They hadn't even loaded it. He goes, yeah, I want to shoot this thing today. And I go, are you leaving on a family camping trip? He goes, yeah. So in the background, like they're packing and the kids are all there. It was just the most unorganized, like crazy day, but we did it.
We could maybe revive it. I think you could put some work behind it. Travis, you're an international screenwriting icon.
I wouldn't say icon, Chris. I haven't had any awards yet, but
you're head of Sesame Street Writing.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far either. Please don't tell people that.
I think we could roll tape where you've said you are several times. I mean, you spent 3 months in Brooklyn, so I think that qualifies you to run a iconic children's show.
But speaking of which, Harland, of course, creator of Puppy Dog Pals, and I was telling him before we got into the studio how I'm a fan, of course, of his in regards to his comedy, but certainly now that I'm part of the children's media world, to meet the creator. Yeah,
wow.
that's how they get you. To
meet
the creator, perhaps one of the more popular. My nieces absolutely love it, and they're huge fans of Bingo and Rolly. And so it's just really cool to finally meet the man who made the magic happen.
Yeah.
How did that project come about? That's like that. I would have not perhaps anticipated you wanting to create your own animated show, but it's not only wildly successful, but it's wildly you.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people don't know, but I studied animation in college.
Okay.
And so it's always been kind of there in the background. I kind of turned my back on it because when I studied animation, it was known as classical animation, which is the Disney style where you had to draw and ink everything.
Right.
And you turned your back on it?
Huh?
You turned your back on it?
I turned my back on it, kid.
Wow.
Yeah, I turned right around like,
Harland, where are you going?
yeah.
Oh,
come back.
Oh, boy. Come back, you dirty little bastard.
Nobody leaves the mouse.
But it was just too tedious a process back then.
Right.
You know, everything was done by hand. It was pre-computer, so I needed something more immediate and quicker. And stand-up comedy is like you get your answer in the moment. So blah blah blah. And I always had people in Hollywood that kind of knew my background and were kind of trying to pull me back. And so finally, this one guy, this manager, just said, "Hey, just come with me and." You know, we'll go, I'll set up some pitches, and if you have some ideas. And I said, I don't really want to, but he was pretty, you know, if it wasn't for his persistence, I wouldn't have done it. I probably said no to him 10 times. And he just, it was almost because of his persistence. I was like, you know what, I like this guy. He just keeps knocking on my door, and I'm going to do it, you know.
You're so dramatic, Harland.
Yeah, sure. I know.
You knew you were going to say yes after the first time.
No, I really did. I said no to the guy. I had no desire to do it, and but he was so. And this was over years.
Right.
He just kept coming at me, and I said, you know what, you won't go away. I said, I kind of something about that I'm starting to like. You know? So I went into Disney, and he took me in, and I had about 4 or 5 ideas, and I sat there and I pitched them all, and the executive was like, okay, great, thanks for coming in. And I was literally like standing up, halfway up out of my chair. And she goes, do you have any other ideas? I don't know why she asked that, but she did. And I sat down and I said, well, I have one other idea. It's about these 2 puppies called, you know, the Puppy Dog Papers. And she was like, oh, tell me about that. And of course, that's the one
That's insane.
Isn't that wild?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't even want to pitch that one. And
wow.
for some reason, she asked, and that was the one they grabbed onto.
This is incredibly interesting.
Well, and then not only that, one thing I certainly have found fascinating about the animation world is like how many creators and writers have that comedic background, that stand-up background. What is it about having that background that makes it so attractive for either children's shows or animated projects? Like, just a lot of showrunners have that stand-up background like you have.
I think it's just, you know, humor's so important. You know, it's a big element. You can have as much heart and drama and everything else, but I think if you don't have some kind of a comedic tone through this stuff, people want that. You know, especially with kids stuff, they want to laugh, they want to see their kids laugh, they want their kids to be entertained. And so you know, the humor I have in the show isn't at the level that I deliver to adults, obviously, but I've always had a kind of a broad imagination for kids stuff. You know, before I did my animation, I had a bunch of children's books that I wrote and illustrated that were published, and so yeah, just that's how it came about.
That's so awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It is too, and with the idea process, and this could be just like a super simple answer, but I don't know, maybe you have more of a process to it. Going into that meeting, did you take it serious, or was it kind of we'll see? And then the ideas that you took, are they ideas that you sat down and said, I'd like to come up with 5 well-formed ideas, or is this something that you're like, I could run with a few of these?
To be honest, I didn't take the meeting that seriously because I just, you know, it was Disney and they're huge, and I wasn't a known entity in that arena, you know, and I just thought it's probably like everything else in Hollywood. Everything's kind of a niche and a club, you know. It's sometimes hard to break through, and so I didn't really think much would come of it. And the other ideas were actually ideas that I had been working on over the years that were just kind of in my file cabinet, you know. And Puppy Dog Pals was one of them. But the other ones I thought were more imaginative and more kind of original.
Mm-hmm.
But to my surprise, and this really shocked me, once I sold the show and we were greenlit and we were developing it and doing all the artwork, one of the executives at Disney said to me, he said, you know, Harland, Disney has never done an animated show about puppies. And I thought, wait,
Really?
what? Yeah, they've done movies like 101 Dalmatians, but Disney has never done a cartoon about puppies.
That's crazy.
And I thought, that's like having cereal without milk, you know?
Yeah. Right,
and
that's unbelievable.
When they said that, I kind of went, I think this is going to be a hit.
Okay.
Because it just, you know, first of all, puppies.
Yes.
Second of all,
Come
Disney.
on.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm thinking,
Right.
this is just almost, how can it miss? And so when we started, they told me that 2 years is the average run for the Disney Junior, like preschool shows.
Okay. Yes.
3 years is a hit, and 5 years is a monster. And so, I in my head I went, we're going to get 5 years. Like I just kind of felt it, and the fact that we're at 3 now is really cool, and we're waiting to hear about a 4th, and so it just keeps growing and doing well.
And talk a little bit about that versatility, because one thing we notice when we are out in LA is that you're not just a stand-up comedian, you're not just an actor, you're not just a writer. You have to be able to show the industry, especially now that you are multifaceted. How important has that played a part in your career, being able to be the writer, the comedian, the actor that can step in and play that particular character? Like, how essential is that to have as you try to obviously make a long career like you have in this industry?
Yeah, I don't know that it's essential. Like, I don't know if you sit down and go, okay, I'm gonna map my career, and I'm gonna be an actor and a singer and a dancer, and you know.
I'm looking forward to the dance part of your career.
You are?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be doing that later on the roof of the Olive Garden in my underpants. But
out in Bakersfield.
Yeah, Bakersfield. But I think you just kind of zone in on one thing, and in the entertainment business, as you guys know, it opportunities spring off of one element. Like, I started in stand-up, but I was very aware that from stand-up potentially could come acting and voice work and this and that and TV and film. So I was aware of it, and writing and stuff like that, and directing and all that stuff. So I think you keep an open mind to everything, but I don't know if people generally sit down and go, okay, for 5 years I'm going to be an actor, 5 years I'm going to. I think in a way you kind of got to let it pull it where it wants you to go too. So there's control, but there's also stuff that you just got to let it happen. Right. You know?
What took you into in the 90s is different than now. Like, there was like a sweet spot of like holding deals. They would hold out at Just for Laughs and much, and you'd get paid $300,000 to not work with anyone else and just develop a series. And maybe that wasn't everybody, but those were out there.
Yeah.
What took you from Canadian dude moving to LA, doing stand-up, to getting a big role in Dumb and Dumber or something about marriage? I mean, it could be very easily charted, but was it just that people enjoyed your comedy or your brand, and that it kind of, you just worked into that? Like, you got in good with the casting people? How did that work out?
No. With me, it was like I kind of built up my act in Canada, and then I did the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. And then there was one manager there. He, bless his soul, he just died about 2 months ago. A guy named Howard Lapidus. He handled Jimmy Kimmel and Tom Green and Dr. Drew. And he was the one guy at this big festival in Canada who was from the States. And he approached me and said, "Here's my card. If you ever decide you want to move down to Hollywood, you know, I'd be interested in managing you." And so I took him up on it. About a year later, I went down, and so he was kind of the doorway for me to at least get down there. And then once I was there, things just started happening super quick.
Yeah, I would say so. Going
Yeah.
out and he's knocking on doors for you, and then you get into some of the. I mean, just the fact that you were a part of those two movies. I mean, those could go down as some of the. I mean, probably biggest comedies ever, like as far as film goes.
Certainly.
Wouldn't you say?
Our generation will put it in their top 10, top 20.
Yeah, and I mean that was kind of the.
What was the second one?
Was Something About Mary.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
I was like, I didn't say the wrong thing. Did I?
No, I didn't hear the second
Oh,
one. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
those two are. Oh my God,
I mean,
yeah. Dumb
iconic.
and Dumber was my first movie. It was the first thing I ever acted in. So it
You're
was.
looking
Yeah.
at Jim Carrey. Who? I mean, where did you work initially when you went to L.A.? Did you go to the Comedy Store? Or
I primarily worked at a place called the Laugh Factory.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's where Jim saw me. Jim
Yeah.
was working out there because he was doing In Living Color, so he'd come do sets on the weekends. And that's where Jim Carrey saw me. And then Jim's the one that he loved my stand-up, so he asked the Farrelly Brothers to see me when
That's awesome.
they started
That's
casting.
awesome.
Canadian dudes looking out for each other.
Yeah.
I like
love
that.
that.
I
That's
like
awesome.
that.
It was great. Jim was instrumental.
Would you have ever expected a Farrelly brother to have an Oscar?
You know what? As much as, like you said earlier, the idea that a guy like me has a kid show,
Yeah.
that's what I love about Hollywood.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
don't know.
You don't
and that's
know,
what I was
right.
talking about. In a way, you just have to let it pull you, and it's like a stick floating down a river, you know, but
Yeah.
you know that the river's powerful, and it leads to a lot of people drinking the water, you know,
Right.
so to be a stick in that current, it can drag you one way, and you can sit in a little eddy for a while, but then a storm comes and it washes you, and then you go down a waterfall, and it's a really kind of tumultuous journey, but it has its kind of slow spots and its fast spots, and it's that's just the way it meanders. So I'm not surprised. No, it's kind of cool.
What are some of the biggest lessons you've taken from that journey? Like, again, to maintain the type of career you've had for as long as you have, not a lot of people obviously can do that. So what are some of the lessons that you picked up along the way that helped you to where you are now?
The lessons I think I've learned is follow your instincts, but also if opportunities come, like grab them and worry about what they lead to after. Like,
okay.
At one point I was, on the real hot list when I was,
Right.
after Dumb and Dumber.
Starring in your own movie. Like
Yeah.
that's not people don't get to do that.
Yeah, I know, and that's something that there were opportunities that were presented to me that I passed on that I probably shouldn't have back then. But that's part of being naive and growing into an industry and stuff. But I would just say, if anyone who's doing it now, like if something good is put in front of you, like do it, and then worry about later if it was a good idea or not. If it's something normal. I mean, if someone says we want to do a movie of you beating a seal with a club, you don't want to do that one.
Talk to your agent first.
Yeah, talk to your agent. Ask who your co-star will be. But if it's something that's in your general field, and like get it and keep going, because that creates momentum, and it just it helps build. But I think every actor in Hollywood could tell you that they missed an opportunity or passed on something, because it's a tough field to navigate.
Yes. You're a modest guy, or a very normal guy, but so maybe you won't because you don't want to look a certain way. But is there an opportunity that you could have taken that turned into a big one for a certain actor, like that maybe they were? I'm sure at a certain point there were actors that would get parts that it was one of you three, right? There would always, the people would cast in similar
Right.
things. Was there anything that turned out to be a major hit that you could have been in that you passed on, that you still think about? Or is it just kind of one of those things where it's like, that would be a little convoluted to say I would have had that role?
No, I mean the only thing was in the beginning of Dumb and Dumber, I was up for the co-star with Jim. So the final audition was me and Jeff Daniels waiting in the room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Farrellys just loved me, and at one point they wanted me for that co-starring role, but what happened is Jim's Ace Ventura came out, and he went from being kind of like the nutty guy on Living Color to all of a sudden a huge star.
Right.
Massive.
So suddenly they threw a second net out all over Hollywood for him to have a co-star. And even after going through everyone, they came back to me, and it was me and Jeff. I remember sitting in the audition room with him at the on the last day. It was me and him, and I'm looking at him. We're just looking at each other, and I'm going, here's a guy who's, I think, either won an Oscar, been nominated for sure. And here's me, a Canadian kid who's only been here like 3 years and has never acted. So I knew he was going to get it. But the fact that they offered me that role as the cop was, they just handed it to me. And I was like, thank you. You guys didn't owe me a thing. So it was a blessing. And so that wasn't something I passed on, but it was something I got very close to, which probably would have maybe taken me in a different path. But I don't think about what I don't got. I always think about what I got. And the only other role that I passed on that I sort of wish I had done, it was a very small role, and most people probably go, whatever, but to me it was like a really fun role after I saw it. It was in Office Space, that Mike Judd movie.
Which turned into, and probably the DVD sales during that time, like, it's very well thought of.
Yeah,
and
it's
a big
great.
deal.
Yeah, and there was a short scene where there's this one guy who does a thing called the O face.
Yeah.
And it turned into kind of an iconic scene. And at one point I was offered
remember, we're
that.
35 and idiot males, so we know what the O face line is. Yeah.
It was a great little scene. And it was one I was asked to do, and I passed on it. And I wish I had done it partly because the movie was so great.
Yep.
And also, once I saw it acted out by this guy named Greg, I forget his last name, but I ended up doing a movie with him later, and he was just the nicest guy, and he did such a funny job, and I thought that was a great little cameo that would have been a lot of fun.
It was, and he nailed it, but
he did,
to the cuteness or the funness of that movie. Seeing Harland Williams pop up for that role would have been...
It would have been fun, I kind of wish I had done that one. But,
we all have our favorite roles of yours, and we were talking about it beforehand, Gardner and I, because we're big fans of Down Periscope.
Oh, yeah.
And only because, like, when you look back on that film, I cannot imagine that the writers had anyone else in mind for that part than yourself. Do you, have a favorite role in Down Periscope? Like, that was I felt like that was your role. Like, that was meant for you. What was that like?
That was an interesting role. To be honest, I initially wasn't that excited about it. I actually said no to it at one point. Yeah, they offered it to me, and I said no. I told my agent no, and they said, well, they really want you. So I was cocky. It was my second movie. And I was like, well, tell them we want more money.
Perspective is so great, isn't it? You're like, what was I doing?
No, it was, but in a way, it was the best thing because I got a better deal. I got more money.
Nice.
And that was the movie, believe it or not, that blew me up. It wasn't Dumb and Dumber. It was that movie that everyone just freaked out over, which surprised me. But I think one of the things that really did it was there's a scene in the movie where I play a sonar guy in the submarine. And at one point, the captain, Kelsey Grammer, asked me to make some whale calls.
Yeah.
You know, to try and make the other submarine think that they're chasing a whale, not another submarine during the war games. And so what happened? That scene was just like kind of like the hit scene of the whole movie almost. And what happened is
Did you want to play Kelsey Grammer real quick?
No, not at all.
I don't remember how it went, actually. I don't know if we have a camera angle, but...
Yeah, it was fun. But the story behind that is even more interesting because the directors and the producer came to me, I don't know, about halfway through the shooting, and they said, we're cutting the whale call scene. And I said, why? And they said, well, we don't know how to do it. We don't know how to generate the whale call. It's just too logistically, we can't do it. And I said, no, I'll give you the whale call. And they said, how? And I said, guys, just trust me. Leave it in. I said, leave it in. I will give you the whale. And to their credit, they looked a little baffled, but they said, okay, we'll leave it in. And then on that day, we didn't do any rehearsal. We didn't do anything.
way.
Just on the day, they said, okay, and we started shooting, and then I broke out. I started doing this whip, and the whole crew, when we finished that scene, it was like it exploded with laughter. Everyone just went nuts, because it's about lasts about a minute.
Yeah, it goes on. It feels like it goes on for a while.
And it's a sub, so I wandered through the whole time. Like I'm doing all these whale noises.
That's the part that sold it. It's
Yeah.
not just because you think, okay, whale
background
sound. So you
silence.
just stand there and make whale sounds. No,
he's got to move.
the part that sold it is all of a sudden you'd be on one side and then
Yeah.
another sound goes to the other. So it's like you're playing different characters with the whale.
Yeah. So when we finished that scene, I just knew, like, everyone just, when you make it's one thing to make the crew and the camera people laugh, but when you make your cast members laugh and they're already comedians,
Right.
it's just, like, it was like an eruption. And I just went, wow. And then we did like 3 or 4 more takes where, because they were so, like, they liked it so much, I just got bigger and bigger, and I started like making, I started going like, the body language was crazy, and I think that was this not just that scene, but I think they liked the character too, because he was kind of subtle, but that surprisingly was the movie that just sent the town, like, everyone wanted me for something.
That's awesome.
It was
That's
exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
It
That's so
certainly is
amazing.
too, and to be able to just showcase like a thing you would have gotten in trouble for as an elementary school student.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like, yeah, look at me now.
Yeah, unless you went to a school by the sea.
Thank you.
Yeah, then you'd probably get a golden star.
I think so. Mother Mary's School for Marine Biology
Sure,
Children. Yes, I like
Yeah.
that.
Our Lady of Chum. Yeah.
Growing up in Canada and then making your way, I guess, to, literally like the apex of entertainment in America, the world, wherever. Do you make it back to Canada much still? And do you I feel like it's cheating because we joke about it, but we're in love with every Canadian comic that comes through. All of a sudden, we're best friends with Tom Green, our buddy Ian, all these things, and you guys do it. But the mindset, and maybe it's because we're Midwest people, and
I think a lot of that has to do with it.
Canada better in the polite department, but I think that has something to do with where we appreciate that.
Their sensibilities are very similar to that of Midwesterners,
But,
and that's why I think we have a huge appreciation.
But I also like that you've lived in this vampire town for so long, and you still maintain the mindset that I assume was instilled upon you growing up where you grew up and with the parents that you had.
Yeah, that's right. It is weird. I think about it a lot, because I am in this weird mix, but I feel like I've been able to just separate myself from a lot of the trappings of Hollywood and just live my life and do my stuff and not step on any of the Hollywood landmines that I think a lot of people do. It's a tough place. It's a tough town.
It absolutely is, and it's oh man, it's the mines that you can hit in your industry and the wrong paths that you can take are all over the place.
Yeah.
So just the fact that you've maintained the career that you have is just so impressive. So it's
you,
been fun to
man.
watch, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Travis, you going to go to Helium this weekend and see
You better
Harland?
believe it, I am.
I'm proud of you for getting that ban lifted, the Keckner ban.
Oh,
This is a big day for you.
Well, plus this town was starting to smell.
Yeah, it was getting really weird.
Yeah, that pee stink.
Ammonia.
Yeah, salt.
Like,
And he eats a lot of Count Chocula. His pee smells like vampire vomit. Yeah.
I would have never went that way, but you just nailed it. Like,
Well,
that's
just go
so
out
true.
and sniff. You'll go that way.
I'll try that. Well, I hope you enjoy St. Louis. Gardner, did you want to kiss any Down Periscope ass anymore?
No, it was good. No,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
just glad it was
good on
brought
that.
up.
There was something I was thinking of. I'm picturing you and Jeff Daniels in the room, ready. If it's down to you two. Are
Yeah.
you familiar? I don't know if you're a basketball fan. Do you guys remember when Larry Bird took the 3-point contest really serious? He would walk into the locker room of the All-Star game, like, oh my gosh, we're all taking a break. We're gonna do this stupid skills game. He would walk into a room and say, which one of you assholes is taking second place today? I feel like that would be how Jeff Daniels would kind of intimidate you. at the same time. So it wasn't necessarily like he
No.
didn't walk in with his chest puffed out.
No,
like
he was.
one
When I
movie,
walked
huh?
in, he was sitting to the right of me. I remember it so clearly because it was a pretty it was such a big moment, and I remember him sitting there. He was very quiet, and we nodded and said hi, and I went in there with my A game, but I also knew that, I knew when all this stuff started with Dumb and Dumber, it was like I was the guy, and they weren't really looking at many other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Ace Ventura came out and Jim went from, like I said, the living color guy to a bona fide movie star, they were bringing every comedian and big actor in town. And so I was kind of out of the fray for a bit. And then the fact that they brought me in at the end, like right on the last day with Jeff, I was like, it's probably not going to go my way, but I'm going to give it everything I got, and I'm not going to think negatively, but that there's a reason he's here, and there's a reason why they recast, they went out wider and more. So I kind of sort of saw the writing on the wall, but I was also like, I'm not rolling over. I'm going to go in there and give it,
Go out swinging. The fact that you just made it there, too. Like, you're
oh
there.
my gosh,
that was the achievement
I couldn't
at the
believe
time.
it. Yeah. Well, I remember when the first meeting, this is how new I was to the process, okay? My first meeting with Peter and Bobby Farrelly, I walked in. I almost feel like an idiot saying this.
They immediately hit him in the nuts. Like, that's
No,
their brand
but
of humor.
I sat down, and we were in a room, and I sat on the couch, and I looked at them, and they're like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, great, guys. Yeah. And they say, great. So did you bring your script? And I said, what script? And they go, your script for the movie. And I said, script? I don't have a script. And I remember Peter just looking at me and turning to Bob and goes, this is our guy. I'll never forget it. I'm like, what? So they literally had to go they thought I was an idiot. Like, I really was dumb. I was either dumb or dumber. I don't know which one. But they literally had to go print me my sides, and I had to read with them after they printed. It was just hilarious. I had no idea. I thought it was just a sit down. Like, hey, I didn't know how it worked.
Just
it was
just a niceties exchange.
Yeah. Just Peter, like dumbfounded. He was like, this is our guy. I'll never forget it. It was.
Well, damn it. You're St. Louis's guy this weekend.
Oh, good.
Helium
Thank
Comedy
you.
Club.
What
a great conversation. What else do we need to look out for? I know, big shout out to your work on all things comedy, and we see you popping up all over the place. What do we need to look forward to?
Well, I have a really exciting project that's it's a secret project, but I'm launching it on my own probably on January 1st, right at the beginning of the year. It's going to be on a thing called Patreon, which is a website where you can join and make a small donation to support the artist. But I've been secretly working on this project where I've been shooting footage all over the world, and it's I'll give you the name. It's called Two Guys in Their Underpants.
Okay.
And it's going to debut in the new year, and it is completely like fresh. There's nothing like it out there. I won't even tell. I'm not going to give it away, but
who's the second guy?
I can't tell you.
Nice tease.
Yeah, it's not even me. I'm not even one of them.
You're just a creator.
It's Two Guys in Their Underpants, and you got to check it out. It's going to be something like you've never seen. It's outrageously ridiculous, and I'll give you a little teaser. Recently, they were both thrown over Niagara Falls for real. So these two guys went over the real Niagara Falls. That's just one episode.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and another episode. I'll tease you with this. They just
tease away.
We just finished editing an episode where they were flying around on a 6-foot-long ice cream sandwich at the Burning Man Festival. So,
oh my
so it's going to be pretty wild. So two guys in
How do
their
you get
underpants.
Tom Segura and Burt Kreischer in the air on an ice cream sandwich?
You'll see, man. It's It's gonna be pretty. It's visually and just it's gonna be. I don't think there's anything ever been put out there like this
Travis,
project.
I'm almost certain.
Travis,
Just by the
we are
description.
experts in body language
Yeah.
and talking to people. We've just hammered out. I don't know how many interviews over the last 4 years. Did you see the way he was speaking about it like that was his child that had just graduated honors from some kind of academy?
This is why I'm excited.
This is why I'm getting tingly. I'm like,
he perked up.
This is very
He
real.
straightened up, and I was like, oh my, this is
It's gonna
something.
be pretty wild.
Okay.
Yeah. So two guys in their underpants on Patreon. Probably gonna. I'm tentatively the first day of the year of 2020.
Okay.
January 1st.
Can I just give
so.
you my wallet now? Like
right.
This sounds like something I need to invest in. That's
Well, the great
amazing.
thing about Patreon, you can donate like $1 or you can donate $50. It's up to you. So, but these episodes, I'm doing it all on my own. I'm shooting it. I'm editing it. I'm doing all of it by myself. So it requires, and I'm traveling. I shot an episode in Saudi Arabia.
Oh wow.
I shot an episode in Vegas. I shot an episode at Burning Man. I mean, these guys are going everywhere, and so it requires. I hate asking people for money, but I actually need it to make this thing go. So hopefully, it's a real indie project, but I think it'll definitely make you laugh. If it doesn't make you laugh, I'll eat your eyelids. Is that?
That's a thing.
We are live.
We recorded it. That's good.
Cut the tape.
That's it.
Cut
On
the
that
tape.
note.
Cut it.